Imagine you're the emperor of the Western Roman Empire. You've got the title, the palace, the guards, the gold-trimmed everything. You're sitting on top of the most famous political brand on earth. And then you get the message every ruler dreads: Rome is in danger. Now, a smart emperor might rush to stabilize the front, rally the Senate, negotiate, reinforce the walls, maybe stop antagonizing the one competent general keeping the whole thing from collapsing. But instead, you choose a different path. You stay far away in a safer city. You fall into court intrigue. You get spooked by rumors. You execute your best commander. And while a Visigoth king is squeezing your empire like a stress ball, you become famous for worrying about a chicken. Today on Royal Idiots, we're talking about Emperor Honorius, the man on the throne when Rome was sacked in the year 410. It's one of those moments that echoes across history like a gong. And the wild part is, the empire didn't even end that day. It just got visibly, irrevocably weaker. Welcome to Royal Idiots, the podcast where we explore the most powerful bad decisions in history. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we're looking at the life of Emperor Honorius, the emperor who lost Rome. Alright, before we can properly roast Honorius, we need to set the table. Because by the time he's in charge, the Western Roman Empire is not the unstoppable machine people picture when they hear Rome. It's still massive. It's still wealthy in places. It still has grand titles and intimidating bureaucracy. But it's creaking. We're in the late 300s and early 400s. The Roman world has effectively become a two-headed system. An Eastern Empire centered on Constantinople and a Western Empire centered, at least in theory, on Italy and Rome. In practice, though, power often flows to wherever the emperor and his army are, and emperors are increasingly choosing safer, more defensible capitals. So even though Rome is the symbolic heart, it's not always the operational headquarters. That matters, because when trouble comes, symbolism doesn't stop an army. Logistics does. The other big backdrop is movement, whole peoples on the move. You've got groups the Romans call barbarians, a catch-all label that says more about Roman ego than it does about those communities. Many of these groups have complex relationships with Rome, sometimes enemies, sometimes allies, sometimes hired soldiers, sometimes all three in one generation. The Roman military itself is changing, too. It's still formidable, but it relies more and more on recruiting from outside traditional Roman citizen pools and on forging deals with powerful leaders who can supply troops. That can work, but it requires political skill and trust. And the Western Empire has a trust problem. Enter our main character, Flavius Honorius. He's born into the ruling family, the Theodosian dynasty. His father is Theodosius I, the last emperor to rule a unified Roman Empire before it permanently splits into East and West. This is the kind of lineage that comes with expectations. You're supposed to be a Roman Augustus, a commander, a statesman, a symbol of divine favor and imperial order. Honorius, however, comes to the throne as a child. And when a child becomes emperor, let's be honest about what that means. Other people run the empire. The emperor becomes a seal on documents, a face on coins, and a prize in political competition. So the question for Honorius' reign is simple. Not was he brilliant? Because the bar is already low. The question is, who was actually holding the Western Empire together, and what happens when Honorius meddles? Honorius becomes Western Emperor in 395, when he's about 10 years old. 10. Think about the decisions you made at 10. Now imagine those decisions determine troop deployments in Gaul. Since a 10-year-old can't exactly chair a war council, the real power is in the hands of a regent-like figure, Stilicho. Stilicho is a top general, a high-ranking military commander, and for years he is the engine keeping the West from spinning apart. Stilicho isn't just a guy with a sword. He's a political operator. He manages court factions, tries to coordinate with the Eastern Empire, and spends his career juggling threats on multiple fronts. And those threats are not theoretical. In the West you've got pressures along the Rhine, trouble in Britain, instability in Gaul and Spain, and, most important for today's story, Visigoths under a leader named Alaric. Alaric is not a cartoon villain who wakes up and thinks, how can I be evil today? He's a leader trying to secure a stable position for his people. Sometimes that means fighting Rome. Sometimes it means demanding land, money, titles, official recognition. The Visigoths have been entangled with Rome for years, and Alaric understands Roman politics well enough to exploit it. You can think of Alaric as a pressure test. If the Western Empire can negotiate, pay, integrate, or defeat him, it proves it still has strategic capacity. If it can't, it proves the opposite. For a while, Stilicho manages. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but he manages. He's the sort of guy you want when the roof is leaking and there's also a fire in the kitchen. You might not like his personality, but he's the one holding the bucket. Honorius, as he grows up, is not known for bold leadership. His court becomes a place where whispers matter, where suspicion spreads, and where the people closest to the emperor have enormous influence. And that's where things start to go bad, because the Western Empire at this point cannot afford internal sabotage. Not even a little. Which brings us to the moment that defines Honorius. Because here's the smart option. You keep Stilicho. You keep the experienced general who's been doing the hard work for years. You manage the relationship. You supervise him if you're worried. You make him accountable. You do anything except remove the load-bearing pillar from the building. Instead, Honorius and the court decide Stilicho is the problem. The details get tangled in palace intrigue, accusations of betrayal, rumors of secret plots, fear that Stilicho is too powerful, anxiety about his connections, and that classic imperial disease. Paranoia that the guy saving your empire might also be positioning himself to control it. And look, in late Roman politics, it's not irrational to worry about ambitious generals. The empire has a long history of commanders becoming emperors, or making emperors, or removing emperors. The fear isn't insane. The timing is insane. Because Honorius orders Stilicho's execution in 408. It's not a gentle retirement. It's not thank you for your service. It's an abrupt removal of the person who knows where the troops are, who understands the diplomatic landscape, who has relationships across the system, and who has the authority to coordinate defense. And then, because the universe enjoys making a point, things unravel fast. Without Stilicho, the Western Empire doesn't suddenly become more stable. It becomes more exposed. There's also a brutal side effect. Stilicho's allies and many soldiers associated with him become targets. And as politics turns into purges, you get a predictable result. People who might have defended the empire decide they'd rather not die for it. Some defect. Some flee. Some choose survival over loyalty. It's like firing your head of security during a break-in, and then accusing the remaining guards of treason until they quit. Meanwhile, Alaric is watching all of this. He sees a Western Empire that just cut down its own best defender. He sees confusion and division. And he moves. Alaric and the Visigoths push into Italy and start applying pressure directly. Negotiations happen. Deals are floated. Ransoms are discussed. But the Western court is unstable and indecisive, and Honorius is not in Rome. He's in Ravenna, a city chosen largely because it's easier to defend. Surrounded by marshes, hard to approach, a place where an emperor can feel safe while the rest of Italy panics. And I want you to sit with that for a second. If you're a Roman citizen in Rome, you're hearing that the emperor is in a fortified hideout while you're facing hunger, fear, and the possibility of siege. Does that inspire confidence? Or does it feel like abandonment with better architecture? So Alaric lays siege to Rome multiple times across these years, squeezing the city for leverage. And Rome, despite its walls and prestige, is vulnerable. It relies on supply lines. It relies on the empire functioning. It relies on someone, somewhere, making competent decisions. Honorius' court drifts between hardline stances and half-commitments. And that is basically the worst possible combination. If you want to be hardline, you need strength and unity. If you want to negotiate, you need follow-through and credibility. If you do neither well, you invite escalation. In 410, the unthinkable happens. Rome is sacked. Visigoth forces enter the city and plunder it. This is the first sack of Rome in roughly 8 centuries. For people living in that world, it's not just a military loss, it's psychological. Rome is the eternal city. Rome is supposed to be untouchable. If Rome can be entered and looted, what else is possible? And now we arrive at the story that's almost too perfect. According to later accounts, when Honorius hears Rome has perished, he panics because he thinks it means his beloved chicken, named Roma, has died. Let's be careful here. Historians argue about how literal this anecdote is. It might be a later jab at his reputation. It might be exaggeration. It might be political satire that stuck because it felt emotionally true. But here's why it matters. Whether or not there was a chicken named Roma, the fact that people believed this story tells you what they thought of Honorius: detached, shallow, and more concerned with the comforts of the palace than the crisis of the empire. So, consequences. What happens after Rome is sacked? First, the immediate damage is real. There's looting, violence, disruption, and trauma. Even if the Visigoths don't destroy every stone, the blow to Rome's prestige is enormous. It's as if the capital of an empire suddenly becomes just another city that can be violated. Second, it accelerates political fragmentation. The Western Empire is already struggling to maintain control across distant provinces. When the center looks weak, regional powerholders start acting more independently. Local elites make local deals. Commanders become kingmakers. Provinces drift. Third, it reshapes the relationship between Rome and the so-called barbarian groups. This sack isn't simply barbarians destroy civilization. It's also a sign that these groups are now major political players. They can force negotiations, seize leverage, and extract concessions. The empire is no longer dictating terms from a position of unquestioned dominance. And here's a key point. The Western Roman Empire doesn't end in 410. Honorius remains emperor for years afterward. Administrators still collect taxes in some regions. Armies still fight. Laws are still issued. The machinery is still moving. But it's moving with fewer gears, more cracks, and less authority. The sack of Rome is a signal event, a bright flare that tells the wider world, and Rome itself, that the old assurances are gone. Now, let's talk about legacy, because Honorius is one of those figures whose legacy is less about what he built and more about what happened around him. His reign sits right in the middle of the story people call the fall of the Western Roman Empire. That phrase can be misleading, because it wasn't a single fall off a cliff. It's more like a long structural failure, economic stress, internal power struggles, military challenges, and an empire stretched too wide while trying to reinvent itself. Honorius didn't personally create every problem. He inherited a messy situation. He lived in a time when even competent leadership might have struggled. But he also made the situation worse in a very specific way. He helped remove effective stabilization from the system. When you execute Stilicho, you're not just killing a man. You're cutting through networks of command, trust, and coordination. And once that's gone, it's hard to rebuild quickly, especially when you're not exactly a natural leader yourself. So in the long run, Honorius becomes a kind of symbol. The child emperor who grew into an adult ruler without the competence to match the crown. The emperor who stayed safe while the empire bled. The man remembered, fairly or unfairly, for confusing the fate of Rome with the fate of a pet. And history loves symbols. That's why Honorius gets pinned to the sack of Rome like a name tag at a disastrous party. All right. It's time for the royal idiot verdict. Let's run the scale. Strategic genius. Competent but flawed. Questionable judgment. Royal disaster. Legendary idiot. So how should we judge Honorius? I'm giving Honorius the rating, royal disaster. And here's why. Honorius wasn't the mastermind of some grand evil plan. He wasn't even the main actor in many key moments of his reign, because so much power flowed through generals and court officials. But that's exactly the point. In a fragile system, your job as emperor is to keep the essential people in place, manage rivalries, and make the few crucial decisions that prevent collapse. His signature move, executing Stilicho, was a catastrophic misread of the moment. It traded short-term security from imagined internal threats for very real external vulnerability. And in the years immediately following, Rome itself paid the price. Could a better emperor have completely stopped the decline? Maybe not. But could a better emperor have avoided pouring gasoline on it? Absolutely. Next time on Royal Idiots, we'll explore Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of Rome. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and share it with a fellow history fan. And if anyone in your life is currently making a leadership decision based on palace gossip and vibes, maybe send them this episode as a gentle hint. See you next time.